The strongest hands in the world are useless against a child's silence. A man returns to his car after midnight in Hong Kong. He spots a small shoe beneath the bumper. He kneels down. A little girl, no older than 6, is curled around the tire, asleep, clutching a torn plastic bag as a blanket. That man is Bruce Lee. He lifts her gently. She doesn't scream, doesn't cry. She looks up at him and whispers 5 words that stop him cold. "Are you going to hit me too?" His hands, the fastest on the planet, start trembling. He carries her to the passenger seat. She flinches when he reaches for the seatbelt. He pulls back, lets her do it herself. What happened next changed Bruce Lee in a way no fight ever could. What did this little girl do to break the most dangerous man alive? Stay with us. Now, here is what you need to understand about Bruce Lee in 1973. He was not just famous. He was untouchable. The biggest movie star in Asia. Hollywood was calling. Enter the Dragon was weeks from release. The entire world was about to know his name. Every studio wanted him. Every magazine wanted his face. Every fighter on the planet either feared him or lied about not fearing him. But that night, none of that mattered. Not one bit. He drove through the streets of Hong Kong with a child in his passenger seat who weighed less than his training bag. She sat with her hands flat on her knees, palms down, fingers pressed together, like she had been taught to keep still, like movement meant punishment. Bruce kept his eyes on the road. He did not turn on the radio. He did not speak, because he understood something most people don't. Silence, when a child chooses it, is not empty. It is full. Full of every terrible thing that taught her words are dangerous. He pulled into a small restaurant on Modi Road. Still open. Fluorescent lights buzzing. A few late-night taxi drivers eating noodles at the counter. Bruce walked in carrying the girl. The owner recognized him immediately. Stood up straight. Started to speak. Bruce shook his head once. The man understood. No fuss. No attention. Bruce sat the girl in a booth. She did not slide in. She perched on the edge of the seat, feet dangling, ready to run. He noticed that. He sat across from her, not beside her. Gave her space. Then he ordered food. Not a bowl. Not a plate. He ordered everything. Rice, soup, dumplings, pork buns, noodles, vegetables, everything the kitchen could send out. The plates arrived one after another. The girl watched them land on the table like she was watching a trick, like someone was going to snatch them away. Bruce picked up his chopsticks, took one bite, then set them down. He leaned back. She waited. 10 seconds. 20. Then her hands moved. Not to the chopsticks, to the food itself. She grabbed a pork bun with both hands and bit into it. No chewing, just swallowing. Then another. Then rice, scooped with her fingers, pushed into her mouth. She ate like someone who did not know when the next meal would come. Because she didn't. And here is the detail that broke something inside Bruce Lee. Something he never talked about. While she ate, her left hand stayed busy. Every few bites, she tore off a piece of bread, a dumpling, a small handful of rice, and she slipped it into her pocket. Quietly, carefully, like she had done it 1,000 times before. She was saving food. Not for later that night. For survival. This child had a system. A routine built out of starvation. Bruce Lee had been hit by the best fighters in the world. He had been doubted, underestimated, told he would never make it in Hollywood because of the color of his skin. He had taken every blow life could throw. But watching a 6-year-old girl hide rice in her pocket while sitting in front of a full table of food, that is the blow that landed. He did not cry, not yet, but his jaw tightened, his breathing changed, and when she finally looked up at him, mouth full, eyes still scanning for danger, he made a decision. Not a grand one, not a dramatic one, just a quiet, permanent one. This child was not going back to wherever she came from. Not tonight, not ever. He paid the bill. picked her up. She did not flinch this time, and he walked back to the car. Bruce Lee's home in Kowloon Tong was not a mansion. It was comfortable, warm, family home. His wife Linda was awake when he walked through the door. She had been waiting, not because she was worried. Linda never worried about Bruce in the physical sense. She knew what he was capable of. She waited because she knew him, and when Bruce was late without calling, it meant something had happened that words could not yet explain. She opened the door, saw the girl in his arms, saw Bruce's face, and here is the thing. Linda Lee had seen her husband take hits on screen and off. She had seen him exhausted, frustrated, angry, but she had never seen him look like this. His eyes were wet, not crying, just wet, like the tears were there but he was holding them back with everything he had. She did not ask who the girl was. She did not ask where he found her. She stepped aside, walked to the hallway closet, pulled out a clean blanket and a pillow, set them on the small bed in the guest room. Then she ran warm water in the bathroom sink. That was Linda. No questions when questions would only slow things down. Bruce set the girl on the bed. She sat upright, did not lie down, did not relax. She held the edges of the blanket with both fists and watched the door, like she expected someone to come through it. Bruce knelt in front of her. "I level," he spoke softly. "No one is going to hurt you here. Not tonight. Not any night." She didn't respond, but her grip on the blanket loosened, just slightly. Linda came in with a warm cloth and gently wiped the girl's face, her hands, her feet, and that is when they saw it. Bruises. Not one or two. Layers of them. Old bruises beneath new ones. Yellow beneath purple. A map of pain written across her arms and legs and back. Linda's hands stopped moving. She looked at Bruce. He looked at the floor. Neither of them spoke. Now here is where the story changes. And believe me, it changes fast. The next morning, Bruce made calls. He contacted a friend in the Hong Kong police. Asked about missing children in the Kowloon district. Street children. Abandoned children. The friend told him the truth, plain and ugly. There were hundreds. Maybe more. The city did not track them. The shelters were full. The system was broken. And unless a child had a parent filing a report, they were invisible. Bruce pushed harder. He described the girl, the bruises, the age, the area where he found her. 2 days later, the friend called back. He had found something. A woman in Sham Shui Pa had reported a child missing 3 months earlier. But then she withdrew the report. The reason listed in the file was simple. Family matter resolved. The friend paused on the phone. Then he said what Bruce already knew. That woman did not lose that child. She gave her away, or sold her. Either way, she does not want her found. Bruce hung up. He sat in his kitchen for a long time. The girl was in the next room. Linda had given her a bath that morning, put her in one of Brandon's old shirts. The girl had not spoken a single word since arriving, but she had eaten breakfast, and she had not hidden any food in her pockets. Not once. That night, Bruce sat on the floor beside the guest bed. The girl lay under the blanket with her eyes open. He did not read to her. Not yet. He just sat there. After a while, her eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. And for the first time in what was probably months, she slept in a real bed, in a safe house with someone watching over her who wanted nothing in return. The house was quiet. The street outside was still. And for one brief, fragile moment, it felt like everything was going to be all right. It was not. 3 days later, a man showed up at Bruce Lee's front gate. He did not knock. He stood there, waiting, smoking a cigarette. Bruce saw him through the kitchen window. Short, thin, cheap leather jacket. Eyes that moved too much. The kind of man who survived not by being strong but by knowing the right people to fear. Bruce walked outside. The man smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile that comes before a threat disguised as a conversation. "I hear you found something that belongs to someone," the man said. Bruce did not respond. A girl. Small. Thin. Shark mouth. He tapped his lip. She has a scar here, yes? Bruce's hands went still at his sides. Now get this. Bruce Lee could have ended this man in less than a second. One strike. One movement. It would have been over before the cigarette hit the ground. But Bruce did not move. Because the moment he touched this man, he gave away every advantage he had. She is not yours, Bruce said. The man laughed. She is not yours either. He dropped his cigarette, stepped on it. I am not here for trouble. I am here because the person who owns her wants her back. And that person is not patient. Owns her. That is the word he used. Owns. Bruce took one step forward. Just one. The man flinched. Hard. His whole body jerked back like a dog that had been kicked before. Bruce didn't need to say anything after that. The man turned around, walked to the end of the street, got into a car with no plates, and drove away. But here is the thing. The problem was not that man. That man was nothing. A messenger. The problem was the message. Someone knew where the girl was. Someone knew she was in Bruce Lee's house. And someone wanted her back. Bruce went inside. Linda was standing in the hallway. She had heard everything through the open window. She was holding Brandon on her hip. Shannon was pulling at her leg. And the girl with no name yet, was sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of milk in front of her. Untouched. What do we do? Linda asked. Bruce looked at his children. Then at the girl. Then back at Linda. I need to find out who that man works for. Now here is the costly part. The part where Bruce made the decision that changed everything. He called Raymond Chow, his producer, the man behind Golden Harvest Studios, one of the most connected men in Hong Kong. Bruce asked him for a favor, not a movie favor, a real one. He asked Raymond to find out who in Sham Shui Pa was running child labor or worse, who was keeping children, who had the kind of reach to send a man to Bruce Lee's house without fear. Raymond went quiet on the phone. Then he said something Bruce did not expect. Bruce, I already know who it is. And you do not want this fight. Bruce hung up. But he did not drop it. Because now it was no longer about one girl sleeping under a car. It was about a system, a network, people who treated children like inventory. And Bruce Lee, the man who spent his entire life refusing to back down, had just walked straight into the middle of it. The stakes were no longer personal. They were dangerous. And for the first time, the threat was not something Bruce could face with his fists. It was bigger than him. And it was already watching his house. 2 days passed. Bruce did not wait for Raymond to call back. He went to Sham Shui Pa himself. Alone. During the day. He wore no sunglasses. No hat. He wanted to be seen. He wanted whoever was behind this to know exactly who was coming. He walked through the narrow streets, past the market stalls, past the cramped apartment blocks where laundry hung between windows like flags of surrender. He asked questions, showed a photograph of the girl that Linda had taken. Most people shook their heads, looked away. A few closed their doors before he finished speaking. Fear. The kind of fear that only comes from knowing who is listening. But one woman talked. An old woman selling dried fish from a plastic crate on the sidewalk. She looked at the photo for a long time. Then she looked at Bruce. And she said, "You should not be holding that picture. Not here. Not in the open." Bruce sat down beside her. She told him what she knew. There was a man named Yuan. Not his real name. No one used real names. Yuan ran a building on Tai Nan Street. 3 floors. The bottom was a garment shop. The top 2 floors were where children lived. Worked. Sewed buttons. Sorted fabric. 12, 14 hours a day. Some of them had parents who sent them there for money. Some of them had no parents at all. And some of them had been bought. The girl under the car. She was one of the bought ones. Bruce stood up. The woman grabbed his wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "He has people," she said. "Not fighters. Worse. Men with connections. Police connections. Government connections. You hit him, you disappear. Not from the streets. From everything." Bruce looked at her hand on his wrist, then at her face. "I have disappeared before," he said. "I always come back." He went to Tainan Street that evening. Found the building. The garment shop was closed, but the lights on the upper floors were on. He could hear sewing machines through the walls. At 7 in the evening, he stood across the street and waited. 30 minutes later, a black car pulled up. A man got out of the back seat. Older, 60 maybe, clean suit, gold watch. He walked to the side door of the building and knocked 3 times. The door opened from inside. He stepped through. Bruce crossed the street. He did not knock. He pushed the door open with one hand. Inside, a narrow staircase. The smell of fabric and machine oil. He walked up. No hesitation. On the second floor he found them. A long room. 20 sewing machines in rows. And behind those machines, children. Some barely older than the girl in his house. Heads down. Hands moving. Not one of them looked up when Bruce entered. They had been trained not to. The man in the suit stood at the far end of the room. Beside him, 2 younger men. Thick arms. Short necks. They stepped forward when they saw Bruce. The man in the suit raised his hand. They stopped. "Bruce Lee," the man said, like he was greeting an old friend. "I was wondering when you would come." "This is over," Bruce said. The man smiled. "This is a business. It has been running since before you were born. One girl does not change that. One famous man does not change that." Bruce took a step forward. The 2 men tensed. Every child in the room went completely still. Not because they were watching, because they had learned that when men get tense, pain follows. Bruce looked at the children, then back at the man. "You are right. One man does not change this." He paused. "But one phone call does." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket. A list. Names. Dates. Transactions. Raymond Chow had come through after all. Not with muscle. With information. Records from the garment shop. Financial links to 3 city officials. Enough to end careers. Enough to make front-page news in every paper from Hong Kong to London. Bruce set the paper on the nearest sewing machine. "That is a copy," he said. "The original is with a journalist at the South China Morning Post. He publishes in 48 hours unless every child in this room goes home. Or to a real shelter. Your choice." The man in the suit did not smile anymore. His jaw tightened. His eyes went cold. "You are making an enemy." "I have had enemies since I was 16 years old," Bruce said. "You are not special." He turned around. Walked down the stairs. Out the door. Into the street. His hands were shaking again. Not from fear. From rage held perfectly, dangerously still. If the story has moved you, and you want to hear how it ends, take a moment and subscribe to this channel. Not for us. For stories like this one. Stories that deserve to be told. Now, let me tell you what happened next. Within a week, the building on Tainan Street was empty. Not because Yuan had a change of heart. Men like that do not change. But because the information was real. The names were real. And the people attached to those names had too much to lose. The garment shop closed. The sewing machines went quiet. 14 children were moved to a shelter in Wanchai run by a Catholic mission. It was not perfect, but it was real. It had beds. It had food. It had doors that locked from the inside, not the outside. Bruce paid for the shelter's operations for 6 months. Quietly. No press release. No interviews. No photo with a giant check. He simply called the mission, asked what they needed, and wired the money. When they asked him if he wanted to visit, he said no. He had already seen enough. But the girl. Let me tell you about the girl. She stayed. Just as Linda knew she would from the moment she opened that front door. There was no dramatic adoption ceremony. No legal battle in a courtroom. In 1973 Hong Kong, these things were handled differently. Bruce spoke with a lawyer. Papers were drawn up. The girl was given a name. May. Linda chose it. It means beautiful. Not because of how the girl looked. Because of what she had survived. The first week, May did not speak. She sat where she was placed. She ate what was given. She watched everything with those wide, careful eyes. Bruce did not push her. He understood something that most people get wrong about broken children. You cannot pull someone toward trust. You can only stand still and let them come to you. The second week, she started following Brandon around the house. Not playing with him, just watching, standing 3 feet behind him like a shadow. Brandon was 5. He did not understand why this girl followed him everywhere. But he did not mind. He handed her a toy car one morning. She held it in both hands and looked at it like it was made of gold. She did not give it back. He did not ask for it. The third week, Bruce was sitting on the floor of her room. He had started reading to her at night. Simple books, picture books, stories about animals and rain and colors. She never responded, never pointed at the pictures. But she listened. Her eyes tracked his voice. And one night, in the middle of a story about a rabbit who lost his way home, May reached out and touched the page. Just one finger. On the rabbit. Bruce stopped reading. She looked up at him. And for the first time, she spoke. "He comes home?" she asked. 2 words. That is all. But Bruce told Linda later that those 2 words hit him harder than any kick, any punch, any insult he had ever taken in his life. Because that question was not about a rabbit. It was about her. She wanted to know if lost things could find their way back. If a home was something she was allowed to have. Bruce looked at her, and he said, "Yes, he comes home, and he stays." She did not smile. Not yet. That would come later. But she nodded, and she lay down, and she closed her eyes. Bruce Lee died on July 20th, 1973. The world lost a fighter, a filmmaker, a philosopher. The news covered the tragedy for weeks. The funeral was enormous. The legacy was immediate and permanent. Everyone had a story about Bruce Lee. Everyone had a memory, favorite scene, favorite quote. But here is the story they never told. In his final months, Bruce Lee sat on a bedroom floor every single night and read to a little girl who flinched less and less each day. He never discussed it in interviews, never mentioned it on set, never used her story to make himself look better. He simply showed up. Every night. Same floor. Same books. Same quiet voice. The world got Enter the Dragon. May got something the world could never give her. She got someone who stayed. And that single shoe. The one she placed so carefully beside her under the car. Linda kept it. She put it on a shelf in the hallway closet. Not as a decoration. Not as a memorial. As a reminder that the smallest thing a person protects tells you everything about what they have lost. The strongest hands in the world are useless against a child's silence. But a voice, a patient voice, reading a story on a bedroom floor, that is the thing that reaches them.